What's that?
I only know what you tell me.
I can't tell you now, you know that.
You can't tell me what?
What's
Where
that?
to begin? What you can't tell me.
I know, and I'm not going to frustrate you with it. Well, maybe I frustrate you with it, but it's easier not to even say I can't tell you because it just frustrates you. And, you know, when the time comes and we can sit down, you know, face to face, you know, it's a resolution of this and the time has passed. I mean, you know all the answers to the things you want to know.
I do?
At the mall.
I do?
Yeah.
How do I know?
Wish I could tell you. But you've guessed the answers to all of them.
How do I have the answers, Scott?
Well, you don't have the answers, but you've guessed at them. You know them, and it's just going to take time and time for me to be able to tell you.
Amber Frey, the star witness from Scott Peterson's trial, and when she came forward to investigators, changed the nature of everything. Because you'll recall, first there was the search for Laci Peterson, and everyone was wondering what could have happened, and they felt bad for Scott. Scott was with Laci's family, and then as soon as Amber Frey, came forward with all the information that she had about what was going on with her and Scott Peterson, major game changer. And there she is with her attorney, Gloria Allred. Still with us tonight is Scott Peterson's attorney, Mark Geragos, and joining us now in New York City, the attorney who represented Amber Frey, Gloria Allred. Great to have the gang all back together. Great to see you, Gloria.
Hi, Vinny. You too. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Gloria. You were referred to as Vinny's anchor-in-law, which gave me great joy.
That's
yeah,
right.
My daughter,
Yeah.
Bloom, used to be his co-anchor. And I think both of them did a great job. Vinny still does and probably knows as much or maybe more than you do, Mark, about this case.
Wow.
Gloria never misses a chance to throw down, so I'll let her.
It's not an insult to you. It's just a tribute to Vinny that he's on top of each and every angle, each and every aspect of it. But I have a question for you, Mark. You know, you had a very good, I'm sure, either an investigator or investigators in this case. So why didn't you uncover what is now known about juror number 7 before she became a member of the jury?
You know, it's interesting you say that because I was just telling Vinny before that we had, I don't know if you were there during all the jury selection, but we had another young lady who wanted to get onto the juror, where I kind of used the phrase stealth jurors. And my investigator didn't discover it, but somebody else had. Back then we were using faxes, and somebody had faxed one of her chat room chats where she had said, I kind of pulled the wool over that defense lawyer's eyes and I'm going to fry his client. We confronted her with it and exposed her then. So I don't know. I don't know why it wasn't picked up then. Obviously, it was a court filing, but the fact remains that a unanimous California Supreme Court thought that it was sufficient enough to set what's called an order to show cause after a unanimous Supreme Court reversed the penalty phase because we were complaining bitterly in real time that the court and the DA were using the wrong standard. This case was fraught.
I heard that, and I heard that about the other potential juror. But so the short answer to the question I asked you, surrounded by lots of other words and lots of other issues, was you don't know why your investigator didn't find out that which was in court filings prior to her becoming a member of the jury. That's fine. I just didn't know why your investigator wouldn't have found out what was in court filings. So you don't know the answer. That's fine. We can move on.
I don't know the answer to that. I do know that she wasn't truthful, and there were a lot of people who weren't truthful. You might remember we specifically confronted the DA in that jurisdiction and asked that he start filing perjury charges because there was so much lying under oath by jurors who wanted to and had animosity towards Scott and were trying to get onto the jury so that they could do him harm, which I think is exactly what happened here in this case.
You know,
Well,
since the convictions, there have been a lot of documentaries, stories. You go on the internet, everyone's talking about the case for years. And inevitably, in all these cases, there's always like this new evidence, this, you know, this injustice. Gloria, you and I were there at the trial, and Mark obviously was trying the case. But I mean, at the end of the day, I thought the state's case was very compelling, and there was some very strong evidence. From your perspective, Gloria, what was the evidence that persuaded you the most, and did you think there was enough that proved Scott Peterson guilty of this double murder?
I know this will shock Mark, but yes, I think there was evidence beyond a reasonable doubt to prove that he was guilty of the crimes alleged. I thought, you know, I do have a bit of bias, but even trying to be objective, which is difficult, Amber Frey did a great job. And the recordings that she made of the calls between her and Scott Peterson, when he didn't realize that she knew that he, in fact, was connected to his missing wife, Lacey, and was spinning a tale with Amber. And, you know, there he is at the vigil for his missing wife, Lacey, talking about being in Paris to Amber. I mean, you know, I think Scott Peterson, you know, he conned Amber. Amber remained calm. She was really courageous to be able to take the risk of taping those phone calls and turning them over to the police, which was, she did, by the way, at the request of the police. And, you know, she was really putting her life and the life of her young child, because she's a single parent, ultimately had two little ones, putting her life at risk. She didn't have a guard at her house 24 hours a day, but she did it for the cause of justice, because law enforcement asked her to do it. And, you know, if she could help in you know, learning evidence that might help them to determine where Lacey was, what happened to her, and even possibly to bring her home, she was going to do that, and she did. And she was very courageous when she was cross-examined by the defense. I think she came across a very, very compelling witness.
Mark, your thoughts about Amber Frey?
The problem was I don't know how courageous it is in the face of a prejudgment prejudice against Scott. I mean, he was, by all accounts, the most hated man in America. There was, during jury selection, there were billboards that were running around on trucks around the courthouse calling it man or monster. The prejudgment rate by both the prosecution's jury selection and jury surveys and ours was off the charts, exceeding anything I'd ever seen in any of these professors or jury consultants had. And ultimately, at the end of the day, the person who heard the evidence and was taking the most copious notes and was closest to it, which was the foreperson of that jury, was not voting to convict and basically was threatened and bullied off of that jury. By the way, and I'll say it again, a unanimous court already found that the jury selection process at the very get-go was prejudiced and didn't meet the law's standards. So you had a preconditioned pro-prosecution jury, which was going to vote, was predisposed towards death, which is by all studies account for a pro-prosecution bias. So he didn't get a fair trial. Unanimous California Supreme Court reversed the penalty phase and set the guilt phase back for findings. So I maintain I saw nothing that I thought was compelling. In fact, most of the people who were watching the trial in real time, who didn't have a dog in the fight, were of the opinion that the prosecution didn't prove their case. So I guess reasonable minds can differ, but the fact remains that
they can. But of course, you represent you know, Scott Peterson, so I can understand why, you know, you're a strong advocate for him, and well, you should be. And the point is, though, you know, I know it's the theme of the defense that poor Scott Peterson is the victim, but you know, Amber Frey took a lot of, criticism in the press.
Gloria,
from a
before
lot
we run out of time,
support-
Gloria, I wanted to ask you one question. If this ends in a new trial for Scott Peterson, is Amber Frey ready to testify once again if there is a new trial?
Yes, I say that without hesitation because that's what she has said. And she has said the truth is the truth, and she's going to tell the truth in another trial if it's necessary to do so. Does she look forward to testifying again? No. Nobody looks forward to
that.
Like this, but she'll do it.
I don't know about that. She got a book deal out of it. She got a lot of publicity. And by the way, nothing she testified to was anything other than character assassination of Scott. And by the way, Scott was a prophet in this sense. He knew that the minute she came forward, the investigation into Lacey was going to stop. And that's exactly what happened. So it is what it is. I don't think she except by way of character.
We're out of time for tonight.
Motives, but you got a lot of publicity too, Mark, and I don't hear you complaining about that.
Well, it's interesting.
They still love each other, folks. They still love each other after all these years. I can bring people together. That's what I do. Mark Geragos, Gloria Allred, so great. Appreciate your very valuable time tonight. We'll talk again, especially as we get closer to the new date for the hearing and we find out what the judge is going to do. We'll see you again real soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vinny. Bye, Mark.
Bye.